The first 2 weeks of the NBA season have been a revelation. We've gotten some great games, amazing performances, but even more importantly, people are loving the way the game is being called now. The referees have been cleaning up the more overt ways offensive players have been taking advantage of their defenders, with new guidelines to stop dribblers from jumping to their man and using their off arm to initiate contact. But what we didn't anticipate was that this would open up a whole new level of physicality allowed to the defense that has put ball handlers on notice that if they're going to the rack, they'd better be ready to finish. With fewer of these types of whistles, the game has been much more fluid, and as a result, the fans have been loving it. Owen Phillips put together this chart, and it shows who has been suffering the most in terms of earning trips to the free throw line. At the top of this list is Bradley Beal, who hasn't shot this low from two-point range since his third season in the league 8 years ago. While there isn't a direct correlation to low shooting percentage and lack of calls, what I have noticed is that he's been the recipient of forearm shoves to the waist as he elevates to shoot. And I've been seeing a lot of defenders get away with this season, and it needs to be cleaned up. Trae Young was one of the guys who sparked this new movement to better interpret the rules, as his stop on a dime while a defender runs into him for a foul was infuriating people. Turns out, the way he does it is perfectly legal, but it's been a different struggle to earn shooting fouls this year. The biggest pattern is driving to his right and trying to shoot his patented floater. The new focus is not to give him a foul if his off arm initiates contact, but I think the refs are going overboard on these. A good clue whether the defender committed the foul or not is if he hides his hands behind his back after contact. It doesn't look like he's using his left arm to hook the defender's arm, and the contact here is with the body. So either the refs will need to stop overcompensating on his drives, or he'll have to come up with a new finish on the right side of the lane. But it's not just the right side. He's trying to quick release the floater going to his left, which is a tough shot, and while it's understandable that marginal contact won't get him the call, check what Olynyk does here, that same forearm shove to the waist, which I guess is a subtle veteran move, but way too obvious in my book to not blow the whistle. Next, let's look at LeBron James, who tends to not get calls when he drives so powerfully to the rim anyway, and I suspect he'll suffer the most from the refs allowing the defense to be physical. He's so strong that his primary defender is pushed away just by his normal gather of the ball. And while he wants the foul because of contact to his right arm, the ref probably felt that since he shot it with the left, no whistle was warranted. I am worried that this will be a source of anger and frustration for LeBron throughout the season. So he must feel lucky that he's partnered with Calm, the #1 app for sleep and meditation. I bet he's on it right now, helping to let these no calls go, and you should too. If you let the bad calls get to you, you almost guarantee your level of play will go down. So use Calm's guided meditations and weekly programs to help you find a new level of peace and serenity, which will go a long way to unlocking your true potential. I can also help you save 40% off their premium subscription by clicking on the link below at calm.com/bball, so you can enjoy LeBron's favorite nature scenes like rain or leaves. Again, for a limited time, our listeners can join LeBron in using Calm and get a 40% discount on a Calm premium membership at calm.com/bball. Unlock content to help you focus, ease stress, and sleep better. In this post-up, he does step on the foot of Bridges, which is not necessarily a defensive foul, but there is a pretty big hip collision that sends him desperately fading away. Is this really good for the game? Again, with a guy this powerful going to the hoop without worrying where the defense is, it's possible they'll ignore the contact to the top of the head, but I think these need to be called. And that brings us to James Tiberius Harden, the mother of all lightning rods when it comes to officiating. They've had to adjust or reinterpret the rules several times already to handle his wizardry, and it's clear that his free throw rate and two-point percentage have taken massive hits because of it. The refs won't let him get up to his old tricks like initiating contact with the off arm before gathering the ball, or extending the ball way out in front to lure the defender to hack him, which honestly should be a foul in this case, but the new physicality will force him to adjust sooner than later. He had gotten the whistle on marginal contact with these kind of calls in the past, and I can imagine the non-Nets fans out there are happy to see the whistle get swallowed like this. In order to get a handle on this complicated man and what is really going on in the court, I had to bring in Ronnie Nunn, an NBA referee for 19 years, head of officials for 5, and director of development for 3 more, to give us his expert opinion for all things officiating. So, Ronnie, we need your help here because I think that the referees are struggling a little bit to handle the new emphasis on the rules and what they want to talk about with the Kyrie, Steph, and Trae Young plays. And then also, there just seems to be a notion of physicality that's been injected into the conversation, which has now changed the way the game is being played.
Yeah, and the way the calls are being made based on the contact that's occurring. So the new change, without a doubt, for the guys, and it would be the same for myself and others in my era, is now we're looking for plays, first of all, more distinctly to make sure we've got the defensive fouls correct, and also incorporating the new definitions about people going out of their path to get contact on shots and things like that in the perimeter. So the first part is easy, but you can very easily begin to allow contacts to occur that we would normally blow the whistle on, not blow it on. And that's the concern going forward. The guys have still got to work on getting it together. For sure. I mean, cleaning up those plays is a great thing, but I did not have on my bingo card that would then directly lead to, letting them play a little bit more. So let's go to the first clip, because here's a great example with your friend and mine, James Harden, who tends to always be on our shows because he's so provocative with the way he plays. What do you make of this open court drive with the contact at the free throw line that resulted in a no call? Well, one of the things referees now have to go back to doing all the time is refereeing the defense. And you know what? Normally, I think I might have even made a foul call on a defensive bump. But when you really look and referee the defense, as I encourage fans to do, become a referee, start refereeing the defense, and you will see that the defender stays put. And all of a sudden, Harden goes in and bumps into him, and then, of course, he throws his body to the side, and it makes anyone appear to think that he got bumped when he really didn't. He made that occur, and that takes very good refereeing. This play, no call, excellent job by the guys and gals out there. And I think that the result of what happened here, as far as James Harden just throwing the ball up, indicates to us that here's a play that he's used to getting a call on, and that he's completely surprised that they didn't call, because halfway through the air, when the whistle doesn't come, he could just throw it to Blake Griffin in the left wing, and then they could play on. There's plenty of time on the shot clock. So I think that's a good example here of these players are having trouble adjusting as well to what clearly is, and I agree with, allowing the defense to have their position. Yeah, and like I say, what they're normally used to get, they're wondering why they don't get it anymore. So some things they're not to get, and that was one of them. Well, last night, James Harden actually got a whole bunch of free throws, but he didn't get some calls, again, going forward on another fast break, and I wanted to get your insights into what you think happened here, why the refs didn't blow the whistle on this drive against T.J. McConnell. Yeah, well, on this drive, this is a normal basketball play. He drives to the hoop, and I'm looking at it now, and I'm not even going to put my glasses on for you, Coach, to make sure I'm not missing anything as I get a little older. But on this drive, there's definitely contact by the defender as he turns his body and even raises his arm a bit that interferes with Harden's drive. This is a legitimate play that is never going to go away in basketball. But again, there's Harden, there's his creativity. And I think he gets guys and gals that we have on staff a little bit confused as to, is this the foul we're talking about or not? This is a deserving of a whistle for a foul for Harden. Oh, interesting. Okay, yeah, I was looking at this really closely too, and I'm thinking, was there a right elbow by Harden that might have gotten too much contact and would have been an offensive foul? But no, it looks pretty clean there. I think, again, in the notion of this is James Harden, one of the best scorers of all time, this is the call that he might normally get in a fast break situation early in a game, and the referees clearly seem to be making an effort to, make this game go smoother and not blow as many whistles. Yeah, listen, this is a very creative offensive player, and as we go even into the third play, that you'll look at, it is another example of a forearm placed across a player's body to impede his progress to the hole. Now, everybody knows this. all of our we've refereed this action for quite a while. It is an effective way to slow down an offensive player so he can catch up with him. So now that he doesn't only put one hand, he puts two hands. So when now Harden is trying to gather the ball, he can't really get to the ball. Now I know this is a hook that he's done at times, but in this particular case, you've got to get the first foul before he even elects to do something else, because this is a major impede. Now, a foul of this nature might get some of the referees confused as they look for a possible hook, but he's coming to the ball. The ball and his second hand, which is his left hand, is coming to the ball, and he's being interfered with on that play. That defender knows exactly what he's doing, and he probably thinks he's allowed to do it. That, I'm raising my voice a little bit, should be a foul.
For sure. And I think that this is the problem we're getting now, because, yes, we know that hooking call is something they tried to clean up a couple of years ago, and I totally get it. And that must have been, on the face of it, what it appeared to the referees here was that he was going to take his left arm and clamp the defender's arms in him. But once you get two hands in the cookie jar at the same time, as overtly as that, and he did it twice. They didn't call it the first time. It seems to me this is the kind of thing they need to kind of figure out how to balance, because we need to have Harden not be able to clamp, but we also need to have the defender not be able to do this. I think that's pretty clear.
Yeah, and this is the exact play referees should see. I mean, I wish they saw this Twitter account and our messaging at B-Ball Breakdown on this particular play. There's the difference right here. And if they can see the difference of the two, they'll jump on it immediately and have no problems.
For sure. Now, that translates into things like LeBron James going hard to the basket, who I have to admit, there are times in the past where he hasn't gotten calls. He's so big and so strong and so, like a locomotive down there. It's hard for referees to deal with. But I certainly think a play like this was an interesting thing, maybe in the name of, hey, we want to lay back here and make sure you don't want to blow the whistle too many times. What did you see here that might have indicated a whistle was merited?
Okay, so here's a basic play. And as I said once before, if we stop this play right at the middle of the paint when he begins to go up, you'll notice the defender's arm. You've got to referee where that arm is. When you start the play out, that arm is at 45 degrees. It's almost what we'd call the horizontal arm on a drive. So when he gathers the ball and goes through it, sure, LeBron is strong to at times go through it and score. As I mentioned one time before, some of our best players don't get calls that they deserve because they're so effective at conversion of hoops and getting through it. But this is a regular, normal, always has been and always should be and will be a foul. At that level, with that drive, I mean, his arm goes up quick to sort of say, it wasn't me. I didn't do anything. My arm's been straight up, but it's not true. So this is a basic foul, and we don't call it. Again, this leads to this. What am I calling again? What's the basis again? Where's our new foundation? Is this part of it? This is not part of it.
Sure. Now, Ronnie, watch what LeBron does after that initial contact, which I agree with should be called a foul. LeBron uses his left arm as an old pro vet move to kind of clear that contest out of the way to get the ball released. Didn't even work because the defender is so long. Now, that's an overt move as well that would be deemed an offensive foul without the initial call happening before that, right?
It could be. And here's the reason why the player, when he does lift his arm and the defender goes back, is that LeBron catches shoulder to elbow. Shoulder to elbow contact on an arm can swivel a player. Different than elbow to wrist when you're warding off. But he uses his body to go through that. And so the poor guy is unfortunate he doesn't have the strength. So he kind of flops back. But I don't see LeBron really going elbow to wrist to clear space. He just clears space because he's body powerful, and he does it with his shoulders.
Okay, fair enough. Well, let's move on to a couple calls that we need to look at that are related to the new emphasis on how they're adjudicating, goading the defender into them while they're shooting. So LeBron, again, was playing against the Suns, and he tries the quick-release three-point shot with Mikal Bridges all over him. No call here. What do you think about this one?
Well, this one goes along with the new guideline and the new definition of seeking out a defender that is really not in your path so you can draw a shooting foul. And by the way, it's most noticeable and it's became an issue on the perimeter. We have a lot of these plays going to the hoop where the body is altered to gain and allure a foul, to lure a foul. But on the perimeter, this has been an emphasis, just like the rip through. On the perimeter, it was an emphasis. This is a form of an extension like of the rip through rules, where now you're stepping into the path of a defender trying to draw a foul, and specifically to try to get a bump, and this is unfair. Now, I'm sure there's people out here that say, it's a pretty clever move by an offensive player to do that because the defender can't stop. But in today's game, they find this being a irritant to the game, and they're saying if it happens like that, this bump that obviously LeBron got, they deem this marginal.
Well, right, because here's the thing. You have three ways to call this: either defensive foul, offensive foul, or no call. And the no call, which is what happened here, tends to be on when the contact is marginal. Hard to believe that you consider this marginal when Bridges' chin gets nailed like that. Do you feel like LeBron had any kind of vector going to his left on this shot? Or do you feel like he was sort of in his cylinder going sort of straight up?
You know, this is a tweener play. And, there's partially going in, and there's partially obviously going up and seeking out possibly contact to get a player who's chasing him arrhythmically not able to stop. So now I think you just have to really view, do I have enough contact here or don't I? And I think you kind of don't have it. But I tell you what, this is a hard play if this was in the finals. And
Right.
The last shot of a game to win or to tie or what have you. And so I think a lot of this defined plays are going to take time to really detail when people are out of bounds and when the play is inbound, so to speak. This is going to be a difficult play to confirm for everybody, fans, everybody. When a player is following, when a defender is following a shooter, it should be an advantage to the shooter.
Absolutely. Well, that brings us to the last play, which is Steph Curry against OKC. And it definitely is connected to the Trae Young move of quickly pulling up when you're on the drive for a floater. Curry hits the shot. It's a quick release. They don't count it. He gets free throws because they're in the bonus, but they did not count the shot for an and one. Can you walk us through what you think is happening here?
You know, Curry is another very clever, high IQ player, and he recognizes when the bump occurs that he can get out of it a continuation. He's thinking continuation. But you know what? Most continuations don't happen like that. So the play kind of looks funny. And I want to draw us back to a term we used to use, afterthought. We used to dissuade against continuations when we think a player tried to get a two-shot foul out of a thought that he never really had initially. And this is what I think the thinking is here. Now, the group of officials today, I don't know if they've had some of the experiences, but this is one of them. I think it's not a bad idea that they did not give it, but by the same token, it was very clever by Curry to take advantage of a bump after he gathered the ball. He can do anything then. He can pass it. He can pass it behind him, pass it to someone else, or he can shoot it. And he's on his way to the hoop. So they did not count the and one, and I think this is a tough play, but I think it goes back to afterthoughts.
Okay. To me, it almost feels like, when you normally see a non-call of that, they'll say, well, the contact happened before he was in a shooting motion, for instance. When you watch the replay, that's clearly not the case. The contact happens. He's already gathered the ball. He's got 1 foot on the ground lifting up into the shot. I don't think the referees were ready. This was such a quick release without a 1-2. This was a 1. Steph already had sensed that this was a poor defender and he could take advantage. He certainly wasn't looking to me like he was ever thinking about pass at all. Because remember, when you get a mismatch like this, Steph Curry's got his eyes turn huge and he's ready to go and score on him. So I think this is all part of the confusion of they're trying to monitor, is this the kind of play and is it a marginal contact and who hits him first? And then I think all of a sudden they're like, wait a minute, I don't think I even processed when the shot occurred out of this one. And I suppose with time and familiarity, they'll just get better at making these calls and get them accurate.
I think you made a good case for the entire evolvement of this entire process. This is going to take a while, and I'm sure Monty McCutcheon and the staff are going to be bringing, and the supervisory staff along with him, are going to bring the more plays they can show officials is the best way to learn. Mimicking what's going on, begin to see what's going on. But right now, I think, it's tough. And that's why we have these tight plays going on where we're disallowing a continuation and where we're wondering about an afterthought that's been part of our game. And now the new definition of luring fouls on the perimeter that are supposedly non-deserving.
For sure. Well, the refs need reps. The players need reps. We're going to get some reps too, so we get better at this. So thank you so much. I'm glad we can get you on so early in the season and get going. I have a feeling we're going to be on quite often this year dealing with all sorts of interesting plays. So I'm looking forward to it, Ronnie.
I am too. We're out of the box, Coach Nix. We're out of the box, and we're going.
That's great. And don't forget, at B-Ball Breakdown, we're not a channel. We're a conversation. You in? Are you in, Ronnie?
Always in with you, Coach Nick. Thanks very much for having me.